Good day, beautiful souls. Today's video is going to be about one of the many tools and coping skills that I have learned. Actually, I will just say several. I don't want to just give you one. So I'm going to give you three coping skills that I use with to be able to deal with my emotions and other people's diagnosis of mental health without the use of medications. For me, this was really important because of a trauma that I've gone through. My chemical changes had happened, and now my brain translates chemicals in a different way. And honestly, when it comes to mental health, it's really still a very new science. It is not as new of a science as quantum physics is, but it was not that long ago that when people were different, or if people had difficulties communicating, or if they were deaf or blind, or even if they were poor or unwanted, or if a man wanted to get rid of his wife and she became emotional, they called it hysteria. And, it was just an easy way to get rid of people. And they would shut them up in these big institutions called asylums. We don't have asylums anymore, and there's a specific reason for that. And back then, people were treated with a lot of disrespect, and they were experimented on, and none of those procedures ever worked. It was just a whole bunch of pain. And looking at mental health now and how we're progressing with dealing with one of the biggest fundamental darknesses of our time, depression, stress, anxiety, all of, not being in control of your emotions and your thought processes because of trauma that's happened in our life. And I'm noticing that a lot of, from personal experience and through studies, that a lot of mental illness happens really after something traumatic happens. So I'm thinking that what people understand as a mental illness is actually just a brain's way of dealing with life because it has this inability to process this particular trauma. So there are lots of things that people have now. I think it's called EDMR. I had tried that once, and it does work for some people, it doesn't work for some other people. It's like a 50-50. There is cognitive behavior therapy, which I think is wonderful. Caveat on cognitive behavior therapy and CBT and CBT is that in order for you to be really able to dig deep and get benefit out of that therapy, you have to have not, you can't be on medication. I think for like 6 months to a year, you have to be medication free because you literally have to be able to feel in order to process stuff. And yeah, feeling stuff sucks sometimes, but we just have to go through those things. And I went through the entirety of everything. And the best way I can let you know that I've become an expert in this because of my own personal experiences and spending years studying it, years being in the healthcare system, years being in the mental health care system, how I had to develop these coping skills and find out what worked for me, because I was getting worse. I wasn't getting better. So let me start at the beginning. In 2001, I joined the military. I joined the military, went through basic training, and finished my schooling prior to 9/11. And it just so happened that after graduation, maybe while we were waiting for our orders, that's exactly what happened. I got pulled out of bed in the morning. I was drugged down to the day room where the televisions and the the public telephones were, and there was a bunch of crying and concern. I could just feel this overwhelming pressure and stress, and I wasn't sure what I was looking at when I was watching the television, and I was seeing some very disturbing things, and it slowly dawned upon me that I had joined the military just in time for us to go to war, because it was everywhere. It was on everyone's television. You could not escape seeing it. It was very oppressive. And as things developed, everything stopped for us at school. They canceled all their orders, and everything was changed over to send us to rapid deployment places. The very first deployment I had was an 06-08 deployment, which happened to be the first set and last set of 15-month deployments that they had for the Army. And during my deployment there, during that period of time, it was pretty hot and heavy. We had established bases by then, but it was still extremely dangerous. Roads were still extremely dangerous. No matter where we were in danger of missile and mortar attacks. We had to leave our families. We had no family support. There was very little of anything at home. We went to a foreign country, and most of us really didn't know the purpose of what we were doing there. We just did our jobs to the best that we could and provided what support we could, because we really were going in there blind. And there was a lot of loss. And there was a lot of things that I had seen and participated in and supported that really, it shook me to my core, because I had firsthand seen the evils that men do to each other, and it ruined me. So when I came back home, I was a completely different person. I stopped, I didn't want to go home. Being able to deal with the people in my family who I loved was very difficult, because I had to shut off my emotions to be able to function in a war zone and be able to stay focused and, have a very cynical humor, because none of us knew if we were going to come home. And the future was not certain. But we still had to maintain discipline during that time and make sure that we did everything in our ability to make sure each and every one of our brothers and sisters we could bring home, and that we could come home safely. So when we finally come home and it's safe, it's like I could not turn it off. I couldn't turn it off. Hyper aware and easily startled. Our enemy was kind of faceless. We really didn't know exactly who was what. Could have came from any country in that region. It could have been men. It could have been women. It could have been anybody. Even though you would give kids candy bars, the very next day they were throwing rocks at you. It was kind of crazy. And so it was just a really confusing time. So it was very hard to integrate back. And when I came back and I was having those difficulties dealing with the traumas and the loss that our unit had had, and the loss of a very, very good and close friend. It was very difficult for me, and I know very difficult for a lot of my brothers and sisters to be able to function on a daily basis. And there was no returning back to normal life, because everything had changed for us. And so the only answer at that time was, you're going to go to therapy, you're going to see a psychiatrist, they're going to put you on some medication, you can't sleep, or we're going to give you this medication. And we think that maybe you might be having some emotional imbalance, so we're going to give you this medication. You're not able to focus and you have racing thoughts, we're going to give you this medication. Oh, these medications are causing your blood sugar to rise? Well, then we're going to give you this medication. And they also are giving you high blood pressure now. Well, we're going to give you high blood pressure medication. And now because of your physical injuries, you have pain, so we're going to um, put you on some pain medication or force feed you a whole bunch of ibuprofen, which we all know is super unhealthy for us now. So by the time I got out of the military, I was like on like, oh my gosh, I think I was like on 18 different medications. And it was that way for years. So from, uh, oh gosh, from 2008 until about 2014, I was on all these medications. And even though I was going to therapy, and even though I was monitoring myself and doing what I was told to do, I was not getting better. I was just getting worse. And my life had been so crazy, and I was so far gone from the person that I had been before, and it was just chaos inside of my head. But I couldn't really express how I felt because um, the medications were making it to where I really couldn't feel much of anything. It dulled everything. And I knew for me, the kicker for me was when my son, he's on the spectrum. He's a child with autism. I do believe he was vaccine injured. And so it affected his development. And for a long time, we went through therapies, changed his diet, did everything I could. Now you wouldn't even be able to tell that he's on the spectrum. But at that time, school was very difficult for him, and I knew how difficult it was because I had fought for him to have all these services and for his rights to be respected while he was in school. So when he came home with his first AB honor roll, I should have just been ecstatic because in my head and what came out of my mouth was, good job, buddy, but I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel happy. I couldn't feel good job. And then when I thought about it and I analyzed it and I went back, like as far back, like up until the point like I got off the plane when I came back home in November of 2007, I was thinking to myself, yeah, I really can't feel anything. And I remember my husband would always ask me if I wanted to go somewhere, if I wanted to watch movies, if I what I would like to eat today. And almost always my answer was I don't care because I couldn't really feel anything. I really didn't care. And the more I thought about it, the more scared I got because I realized that these medications had taken away my empathy, but they didn't take away my ability to be irritated or angry. And that is a dangerous, dangerous thing. So it didn't take away the ability to feel negative emotions, but it did take away the ability for me to connect emotionally to my happy and to see other people as human beings. So I just stopped cold turkey. And I don't ever recommend that you guys stop cold turkey. Don't do that, right? If anything, just work with your physician to um, safely, if you choose not to be on them anymore, change your levels until, and help you find coping skills. Because I had quit everything cold turkey, so it was kind of very chaotic for a while. And I had to find coping mechanisms that worked for me in order for me to be able to um, be in control of my thoughts and be in control of my emotions. And one of the things that I used, and then a most wonderful person brought them up to me, was a certified natural therapeutic grade or certified pure therapeutic grade oil. And what that means is that, and it's an essential oil. So when they're certified pure and therapeutic grade, it means that they are so pure and they're not adulterated. No chemicals are added to it to extend the oil. There are no fillers to extend the oil. It just is a pure, very potent and with high efficacy essential oil. And when I was given these to try, I realized that using certain oils helped me to regulate my emotions. So if I was not in a good place, that I could actually smell something that would help me get to a better place. And as I learned more about essential oils for use aromatically, I learned why they work so well to help you to regulate your emotions. And it's because your nose, when you smell something, right, that smell, those chemical compounds your brain is translating, it goes to your amygdala inside your brain. And your amygdala actually is the part of your brain that helps to regulate your emotions. I mean, great example. Can you remember right now the first time you ever smelled a rose? Right? I'm sure that generates a super powerful memory, right? Because scent, right, is a powerful trigger. It actually helps your brain to process things. It helps your brain to remember and recall certain memories. So maybe you like smell a barbecue cooking somewhere and it'll take you back to some childhood time at 4th of July when you guys were barbecuing. You know, smell is very, very powerful. So I started finding out which chemical compounds would help me to alleviate my stress, and I would find which oils affected me in a positive way. Because oils are the only reason, the way that oils are similar to pharmaceuticals is that not every oil works for everybody. Everyone is completely different, and how we translate these compounds is different as well. So I like to use lavender to relax, but there are a lot of people out there where lavender actually gives them a headache. So you have to really just find what works for you. And one of the things that worked for me was frankincense. So here's frankincense. Oh, can you see it? Frankincense. So frankincense, for those people who read the Bible and know anything about the birth story of Jesus Christ, frankincense was one of the gifts that the three kings had prepared to give to the newborn king. And it was because frankincense is a very, very powerful and versatile resin. Frankincense is actually a resin, a sap that comes off of a tree, and that tree only grows in one region in the entire world, right? And frankincense is like gold. Frankincense is known as the king of all oils, and it's because it helps you at a cellular level for your cellular health. It helps with skin. It helps to alleviate skin irritations and sensitivities, and it helps your skin cells on your face to rejuvenate, and it just smells amazing, right? It helps cognitive function as well, and it just happens to be the special for December on doTERRA, so I will put that link below so that anybody can kind of just take a look at what that's for. You have a chance to get one of these for free. So there's that. Essential oils. And I'm just talking about frankincense. There were many that I use and that I use myself. And then just recently, doTERRA created a blend of essential oils, and they made it to where it's already diluted in a touch formula, so you can put it straight on your body, because all essential oils, right, they should be diluted to help your sensitivities. If you continue to put plant compounds on you, eventually you will develop sensitivities, and trying to dilute them will actually minimize and lengthen the time a sensitivity might develop for you. So just keep that in mind. And there are some that absolutely have to be diluted because they really do cause sensitivities. Cinnamon, cassia, things like that. If you've ever put cinnamon directly on you, you know that sucker is hot, so it will irritate the skin. But the special blend that they came out with during the summertime is called Adaptive. And it's in 3 different forms. It's in a pure form essential oil blend where you can put it in a diffuser. And it really does help to alleviate stress. It helps to kind of put you in a good place so that you can choose wisely how you think or choose how you'd like to feel, right? It gets you out of panic mode. It gets you out of anxiety mode. It gets you out of super tension stress mode. And it also comes in the pre-diluted roll-on. It comes in a 10 milliliter roll bottle. But it also comes in internal. So yes, essential oils can be used topically, aromatically, and internally. And one of the things I love about doTERRA is that if you can have it, right, if you can take one of these and use it internally, the bottle will actually have a nutrition or a supplemental label on it. So then you'll know that that particular oil or blend is safe to take internally. If it does not have a supplemental information label on it, it's not recommended that you put that in your body. So that's adaptive. But really, when I think of like relaxing, my idea of relaxed intention is just getting back to nature. Smells of the ocean, the pines that were off the beach, right? So black spruce, really powerful for me. That's an oil that I really do enjoy, and it is a beautiful, beautiful scent. If you get the chance, and you want to click below, I would be happy to send you a sample, because I think everybody should have just a positive experience with these type of oils. So that was the first one, was the essential oil. The second thing that I actually use, coping skill that I use on the daily, right, is especially when I was experiencing anxiety or panic attacks, you really got to think about your five senses, right? So think about your five senses. And you want to have things with you, whether it's in a pocket or in a bag or something, that are going to help you to get out of wherever you just went to and come back to where you are and ground yourself in the now. Usually when you're going through a panic or an anxiety attack, you're really not aware of and where you're supposed to be. Now your brain is someplace else, and you need to pull yourself back. If you're reliving an experience, you want to pull yourself back here. So we go through taste. So if you have altoids, peppermint is super, super powerful. If you want to just use a peppermint drop, that'll wake you up, right? That'll help you get you to now. So popping a peppermint in your mouth or using peppermint oil in your mouth is very powerful, right? Touch. Have some little tiny bag, because I have a small bag that has like a seashell, a feather, a lava rock, something where you can textile, something that feels different, something that you like to touch or hold, maybe a worry stone, something on your thumb, but something that allows you to be tactile, because you want to get yourself out of where you're at and back to where you can be in control of your situation. And then the third thing is sight. What are 5 things that you can see right now? I see a dog. I see a box of cereal, right? I see a candle. And identify things that you can see, like right in front of you. That doesn't work so much for me, because if I do have a panic or anxiety attack, I get tunnel vision. So I have to rely on the other senses. And because of the tunnel vision, my hearing goes away. But for people who still have their ability to hear, what can you hear around you? What are 5 things? Can you hear footsteps, right? Can you hear a siren? Can you hear a baby? Can you hear a cash register? It's just focus on sounds, focus on what you can touch, focus on what you're tasting, focus on what you can see, if that's something that's available for you, right? And then the last one is smell, which is why I always have essential oils with me, because that will help get you out of where you at and bring you right now. So those 5 senses, right? It's a 5 sense coping skill. That's super important. And really helpful when you're out in a place that makes you uncomfortable anyway, like a Walmart. Walmart's like kryptonite. But there's that. The third coping skill that I have learned to be able to control my thoughts and my mind is actually really, really simple. When we are in the military, we learn to fire our weapons, and we have to control our breath. It's made steady position, and then we're making sure that we have a steady grip on our weapon, and then we make sure that we're aiming, and then we also have to control our breathing, right? Breathing control. And then the last thing is your trigger squeeze. But this particular exercise is only focused on the breathing. Breathing is most important. It will help you lower your heart rate. It'll help you to pull yourself back from wherever you're at, right? It will help you take those 4 seconds that you need before you're about to say or do something to either hurt someone else or hurt yourself. It gives you time to think, right? It creates a space for you. So it's what we call combat breathing. And combat breathing is pretty simple, and anyone can use it. It's just a breathing exercise. You take a deep breath in for a count of 4, and then you hold it for a count of 4, and then you slowly release it for a count of 4. And you do this 4 times. So we're doing 4, 4, 4, right? Breathe in for 4, hold for 4, breathe out for 4, and we're doing it 4 times. So this is a lot of information. So I want everybody to take a deep breath in and out. So those are just 3 of the coping skills that I use. Essential oils, because they're amazing. I'll get more into that later. The 5 senses coping skill, to bring you back into your now. And then the combat breathing, which will create a safe a space for you to come back into control, to help your heart rate to come down, to help you make a better decision, right? And just to give you that space. So breathing, 5 senses, essential oils. Those are just 3. And so before, people are like, because there are going to be a whole bunch of therapists out there that disagree with me. There are always going to be psychiatrists that disagree with me because they think that medicine is the greatest. And there are going to be other people who said, well, that doesn't work for me. Or that's the thing, is every coping skill, like every medication and like every kind of essential oil, it's not going to work for everybody. You have to try these things out. And then out of all of the coping skills that are available, you find out what works best for you, right? Because that's what I did. All I'm going to do when I do these videos is I'm going to show you and tell you how to make the law of attraction easier to understand and to be able to do. I'm going to be talking about transformation on a physical level, on a wellness level, on a mental and spiritual level. And then I'm also going to be talking about coping skills. So you take what works for you, and if the rest of it doesn't work for you, that's fine, right? So not everybody is the same. I like the analogy that we're all heading in the same direction. We're just all going at different speeds, and we all have our own vehicles, right? And so you have to find, what works best for you. And that's it. When you're dealing with any kind of emotional stability or being able to learning how to control your thoughts or any of that stuff, no one outside you can help you anyway. Everything has to be done by you. You can learn coping skill, but you won't know if it works for you unless you put it into action when you need to. And you're never going to be able to put the coping skills into action if you don't actually get out there and go put yourself in those positions that make you feel uncomfortable. So absolutely find what works for you. Work on these little by little. Find yourself a nice safe space to do it. And please, for anyone, right, just because I know that there are tons of people who just throw their medications down the toilet and don't properly make sure that they have coping skills or things that they use in lieu of. Please don't just stop your medication just because. Let someone know and work with someone to try and help you find what works best for you. Okay? That is my recommendation, because I don't expect that everyone can do what I've done in the way that I've done with the coping skills that I have, because no one's experienced exactly what I experienced, and no one's experienced exactly the things that you experienced. You are a very special person, right? It would be unrealistic of anyone to expect that the same thing that works for someone else is going to work for you. That's not how life works, right? So because you are such a special individual, you have to find what works for you. And I hope that as I make these daily videos, that something I share can help you, something that I can explain what I've gone through, can shine a little clarity on some things. And as I talk about each individual, either food, superfood, nutrient, or essential oil and product, that you'll get, finally some kind of system, right? Some kind of final system that you can add natural solutions to what you're already doing, and then finally be in a good place. Please, if you are having any thoughts of hurting yourself or hurting someone else, please reach out. Reach out, and I'm actually going to put the suicide hotline on this video. You're going to see it right here. Very important, please talk to someone. Talk to someone. Let someone know how you feel. Let them know what you're thinking, and don't worry about the stigma. I know that there's still a huge stigma about people who seek help or are not in a good place right now. And you know what? Don't even worry about that. You need help right now. You go get help right now. Right? And don't ever think that keeping it to yourself is going to make anything better, because it's not. You have to talk to somebody. All right? So much love. I hope that some of these will help you. Definitely try out some of those and see if it works for you. The tactile is a lot of fun. People are like, what is that? It's like a bag of feathers and stones and things, and they think I'm doing voodoo or something. It's like, no, it's so I can get back to the here and now, and they still don't know what I'm talking about. But that's okay. It works for me, and that's all that matters. So much love. I hope you guys have an amazing weekend, because it is Friday. Yay. All right, so much love. If you do try it out, or if you have some coping skills that you'd like to share with everybody, go ahead and put them down below in the comments section. And if I've helped you in any way, please hit that subscribe button so that you can see more of my videos. I have much love for everybody, and I want you to have an amazing life. And we are all going to find the ways for us to be absolutely happy, right? Because that's what life is totally all about. So have a wonderful weekend. Namaste.